What's up, MEC? How's everybody doing? We are back for another episode of MEC TV. Hope you guys enjoyed yesterday's episode with Tom, and we've got another killer session for you guys. It's going to be not just a presentation, be entertained, but this is going to be stuff that you guys can follow along with, put some work in, execute on, and change your life. So we've got Mr. Josh Forti back in the house for number 27 time in the MEC.
Is that what the official number?
No, I just made that up. I've just been sticking to it. But it feels like it. Happy to have you back. So if you guys know Josh, leave a comment, say, hey, Josh, and we'll get this cracking pretty soon. So thanks so much for coming on, man. So what's happening and what can people expect for today's session?
Oh, man, I'm super excited to be back here, my man. I super appreciate you having me in here. We're going to have some fun today. Basically, to give a little context about this, you see the questions that are on the screen right now are the 5 questions to change the way you see the world and get anything that you want. Basically, one of the things that I noticed as a coach, because I do a lot of coaching in like the social media space and in the marketing space or whatnot, is I started to recognize that a lot of the people that I was having problems with coaching had a terrible mindset, and that the people that had a good mindset, like they would crush it, whether or not they had money or a large audience or a small audience, it didn't matter. And the people that may or may not have had a big or small audience or whatever weren't doing so well. And I started recognizing a lot of the things that I was working on with these students in my own life and kind of relating back to the struggles that I went through. And so as I went through this, I started to write down all the questions that were being asked. And I started to tie them to different, like I have a big, huge, like 8 foot long by 4 foot tall whiteboard, like double sided. And I started to tie them back to different concepts and started to like understand like the way that people were thinking and why they were thinking certain ways. And I basically took all that information and narrowed it down into 5 core questions that you need to ask yourself, which will allow you to then go and essentially get anything that you want in life. And once I was able to identify these, I identified them probably like 3 or 4 months ago. So it's been a while that we've kind of gone through and like I started applying them in my own life and really like had a lot of realizations just with getting clear on those. And so I took all that, I put it into a playbook. It's free, a free playbook, and started giving that out to people. And that went hand in hand with my podcast, which is called the Think Different Theory. And those things, if you ask yourself these questions, and we're going to go over each of these questions here, I believe that you can have anything that you want in life, or at least see the world in a different light that will allow you to go and get that.
I love that. And the cool thing is when, a person like you gets experience enough as a coach, you start to see all the same patterns. And when you start to see those patterns, you know which questions unlock that person's next potential. Yeah. And so finding those top 5 questions and just getting that into everybody's hands is a really awesome thing for you to do. So appreciate that. And make sure you guys leave a comment. Let us know if you guys are hyped to get these questions. And I am too. I have no idea what the heck he's about to say. So this should be fun.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, man. So we'll dive into these here. If you guys are, like Arne said, if you guys are pumped up, if you guys are excited, leave a hashtag excited below and we're going to dive in. One of the things that I also noticed to kind of like pre-frame this was it really worked. The last 2 questions are geared more towards people that are just starting out and like understanding it. But the concept upon those questions and the concepts of all of them apply to us in all areas of life. And when I started asking myself these questions, I had to go and become super brutally honest with the answers for myself. And when I became honest with myself, that's why like in the first page of the playbook, I there's like a big, it's not like a warning, but like instructions, and to go through the playbook and go through and ask yourself these questions alone and not to go through it with anybody else or get an accountability partner until afterwards. And the reason is because what I found is when I would ask people these questions, they would go and they'd say, yeah, I was talking to my friend about it, or I was talking to my wife or my husband or whatever. And when I actually like quizzed them on it and drilled it down, those answers would be skewed, because they were afraid to admit to themselves what they really wanted, or like, and we'll go through the questions here. So as we're going through these and you guys are thinking about this, it's super duper important to be brutally honest with yourself and say like, hey, this is the actual answer. All right. So let's dive in. The first question that you have to ask yourself, and I actually just did a podcast episode about this. This is the 2nd episode, is called The Question of Why. And this is a very powerful question because a lot of us have no idea what, why we do the things that we do on a daily basis. And I mean like absolutely everything. Because what happened to me was I found myself about 6 months ago in a very depressed state of, yeah, 6 or 7 months ago, in a pretty depressed state of not knowing what I wanted to do really with my life, but more importantly, having no idea how I got to where I was at today or why I was even there. And I was watching a video by a guy named Sam Ovens. I know you're familiar with him, and many of you guys probably know who Sam is. And he was talking about distractions specifically. And he was talking about going and tracing distractions back to the source. And I started thinking about that, and I was like, well, what happens if I traced other things back to the source? And so I started asking myself the question of why do I do absolutely everything that I do, and tracing that specific thing back to the source. So why do I wake up when I wake up? Why do I eat what I eat? Why do I want success? Why do I want money? Why do I want followers on Instagram? Why do I want anything in business? Why am I actually going out and chasing the things that I'm doing and tracing it back all the way to the core source? And for me, what I found was fascinating. And I found that I would venture to say 60 to 70% of what I was doing was based off of either what somebody else's definition of success was, or what somebody else thought was the appropriate thing for my life that I was doing subconsciously that I never actually thought through on my own. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah. And so when I recognized this, I realized, holy cow, like there's so much that I'm doing that's making me unhappy. And so all of these goals of like getting more followers on social media or becoming super famous or making $1 million really fast, all of those things were tied to things that were not ideas of my own. And what I realized was, as I've really, really studied like mindset and psychology and like NLP and like all that stuff. Like your brain, like when you're first born, is essentially you're born with basically a clean slate. And as you grow up, depending upon the environment that you grow up in, different ideas form in your head, and different ideas like form with what you're doing based on who you're around and what you get taught. And so naturally you just start doing things subconsciously without even recognizing that you're doing them. And you have certain beliefs based on what you're telling yourself, based on what you've heard from other people as to be normal. The best way I can put this is, if you're born and you grow up in Africa without electricity and without a big city and without fast food, your definition of success and what's normal and what's possible is going to be far different than if you grew up in New York City, right? And that's the same thing, and that's true in all areas of life. And so the question that we first need to ask ourselves is, why do I do everything that I do? So if that makes sense, if you guys could just drop why below, just WHY, so I know that we know that you're making sense, or that I'm making sense here, not just rambling on. Does that make sense, my man?
Yeah, yeah, and the really cool thing about that is it's kind of like that extra level of consciousness you get once you start to understand that, oh wow, I've been programmed with all of these different experiences throughout my entire life. I can evaluate that, I can shift that, I can take bad experiences and figure out how to, create positive new beliefs around that, and change my entire mindset, change my entire actions, change my daily life, how I live, how I think, how stressed I am, how positive I am. All that stuff is completely up to you. And it's just kind of like the art of how to unlock that. And that's what I think is really cool about that. All that study about NLP, behavioral psychology, all that kind of stuff. And like as an entrepreneur, you got to master yourself first. And all that stuff really helps out in marketing. So I highly advise you guys to dive a little bit deeper in that and make sure to follow these 5 questions.
Yeah, and that's super true. This applies to so many areas of marketing as well. When you can better understand yourself and how you function. And what I really encourage you to do as you're asking these things is to write them all down, because what you'll find is when you do have those breakthrough moments, you're never going to be able to unsee what you've seen now. And it's easy to forget what it was like before you recognize this. Like literal like light bulbs will go off in your head and you're just like, whoa, this is so cool. So write down the feelings and things of how you feel now so that you can better relate to someone that's also already there. And so when you ask this and you become very consciously aware of like, oh, this is why I'm doing this, your entire life will change. And I will tell you, like, my entire goals in life and everything that I thought I wanted completely shifted. And a lot of people have noticed like big changes in my life. I'm the happiest I've ever been. And it's like totally counterproductive to where it should be based on what people thought I wanted, right? And it's because I got super honest with myself. So that's the first question. The second question, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and that's so true, because before you were acting out of all of those different ideas of what your goals should be, whether it was $1 million or the fancy cars or whatever it was, social media followers, all that. And then you had that bit of introspection where like, wait, that's not what I really want.
Yeah.
you know, Money, influence, all that, awesome. But you've discovered some of the things that really help you be that happy yourself. So that's really
Yeah.
cool.
And the cool thing is that when I made this switch and I made this like recognition, the next question that we're going to get into is what makes you happy and like what do you actually want, like clearly defining your goals.
Gotta pause real quick. So somebody said, I'm just here for the chicken nuggets.
No chicken nuggets this time, although the Super Bowl's coming up, my man. I'm
It
just
is,
saying.
and I'm in Colombia again. We did that last year when I was out in Colombia
And you're
too.
in
So
Colombia, maybe we'll have to do a repeat, maybe like 30 chicken nuggets this time, because like dying. But anyway,
yeah.
that's funny. So like the second question that we come on to is like, the question is, what do I actually want? What makes me happy and what are my goals? And what's interesting was when I shifted, and this is a very important concept you need to understand. Energy is very important, and energy and like mindset of using energy in your mindset. When you get into a flow and you get into a zone of what you actually want to do and like that you're passionate about, your mind, because you're talented in that area and because that's your desire, your mind kind of aligns and is able to understand things so much more quickly about a concept that you're super passionate about because you understand it versus something that you're not passionate about that you're trying to force on yourself. And so what I recognized is when I got really clearly defined on my goals and what I wanted to do, I was able to have success in those areas much faster than in success in a lot of other areas. And so, for example, I readjusted my goals on social media. I still love social media. I still love what I do on social media. But where I focused my time and energy on social media, I started aligning with what I was actually passionate about and building the life that I wanted to build with it. And I actually made, and I'm not claiming that this is necessarily going to happen to anybody, but like I made more money, like taking a step back and working behind the scenes on a lot of different things that I was passionate about rather than trying to put it all out there like for everybody else to see, because I was just able to be in my creative zone and just go out and do, right? And I was able to do that in my personal life with health. I've made like drastically major shifts and jumps forward in my health. I used to eat so poorly, and now I drink like green smoothies every day and like all. Why? Because
not 12 cans of Diet Pepper every day.
not much smoke. Right. Exactly. I have like 4 52-ounce bottles of Bolt House Farms, like green smoothie and red peppers and organic, like all that. I would have never done that. But now, because my goals and visions that I aligned with, and we'll get to this in question number 3, like that was my passion. That's my goal. I was happy to make these shifts and happy to go and become that person and focus on that because I got really clear with what I wanted to. And that yielded in higher profits for me. That yielded in way less stress. That yielded better balance, everything about that, because I got very, very clearly defined on my goals. And it baffles me, Arnie, and I'm sure you've seen this as well, but I cannot tell you how many people that I've gotten on a coaching call with, or that I've seen at an event, or that I've commented, had back and forth conversation on Facebook, and I asked them, what is your goal? And they don't know. Like their goal is, I want to make more money. That's not a goal. That's an open-ended goal. But like you need a clearly defined closed goal in all areas of life. And so in business, it's like, I would like to add more money to my business. Okay, is more money $10,000 or is it 25 or is that 5 million, right? Like having a very clearly defined goal then allows you to actually go and put a game plan in place to be able to go accomplish it. But I would venture to say that 80% or more of people that I talk to have no clearly defined close-ended goal of what they want to accomplish. And so one of my resolutions, and I've noticed it a lot in my life too. And so one of my resolutions for 2019 was I set goals with very specific numbers, like exact numbers of this is exactly how much revenue. Not like, oh yeah, I think I want to make $1 million. Like, no, I went through and I made out specific goals and then I matched revenue to those goals and said, I'm going to make X number of dollars so that I can do these specific things. And I got very, very specific with it. And we're already further on track to hit those goals in the first, 9 days of 2019 than in the first 2 months of 2018, simply because my goals now are not open-minded, they're open-ended, they're close-ended. So getting very, very specific on those goals really fundamentally changed how you go about achieving them.
True that. And on that note, real quick, if you guys did miss the last MECTV episode yesterday, we did an entire hour-long session with Tom Sylvester on goal planning and a huge exercise that you guys can go through to do that. So if we ask you that question right now, like what are your big goals, and you're going to be one of those people sitting there with your jaw open, do that workshop. Like, listen to that, go through it, follow the exercises, and then come back and finish up with these questions with Josh. So whatever platform you guys are on right now, whether this is the Facebook group, the YouTube podcast, go dig up that last episode. I'll make sure to publish them in order and do both. That'll really be helpful.
That's awesome. That's really good. You've got to get super clearly defined on your goals. So once I did that, I sat down and I was like, okay, what's the next step in my life that I that I need to do in order to go out and accomplish those goals? Because I don't know how many of you guys have been there, but once I started sharing this story a little bit more, I found out that a lot of people were like this. I would have goals or things that I wanted to go and like do, but I'd wake up in the morning and I would be lazy and I couldn't stay focused and I'd play Candy Crush and I'd work for a few hours. Then I'd watch Netflix or I'd be super depressed or like, and this went on forever and ever and ever. And I would like try to get focused and I would try to do all these different things, but I could never get over that hump. And it was because first off, I did not have clearly defined goals, right? Like I had no idea what specifically that I was supposed to work on. And then second, I started digging down into that even further. And I said, why is me as a human, Josh, not able to go and do that? And I began to study and understand that you as a human right now, the person that you are only capable of achieving certain goals. Like there's certain things that you're based on your skill set, your knowledge, your habits, and what you do in your personal life on a daily habit, you're only capable of achieving certain goals. Like it's physically impossible for you. And I'm not going to go into like the psychological reasoning behind all of that, but like you can't actually accomplish more goals than what you're actually capable of. And so all of these people are going and they're setting these big, huge goals, but they as a person are not actually physically able to accomplish those goals. And so you actually have to go and become a new person. You have to go and study the type of person that you need to become in order to go and achieve those goals. And so question number 3 is, what are the things that are holding me back from my goals that I'm doing? And who is the person that I need to become, right? And it is usually, and this is a big epiphany that I had, it is almost always a process of elimination, not elimination or subtraction, not a process of addition. Most of us think we've got to add more things to our schedule. We have to do more things. We have to learn more, more concepts. And in reality, it is almost always focusing on less things, but focusing on more specific things and eliminating bad habits and bad thoughts and things out of our life to be able to actually go and accomplish what it is that we want to do. And so you have to get really clear on, and this is why it's so, so crucially important to set goals. And everybody should go listen to that workshop with Tom. Was that his name?
Yep.
With Tom. Everybody should go listen to that, because if you don't know what your goals are, you can't possibly know the person that you need to become in order to achieve those goals. And what was hilarious to me or fascinating to me was I launched my podcast on Monday. And so I finished my mind shift playbook and everything for that. I don't know, it was like Saturday or Sunday. I forget. It was like a day or two beforehand. Filmed all the videos or whatnot. On Monday night, I think it was Monday night, Alex Becker, you know Becker, right? Mm-hmm. He released a video on his YouTube channel called The Death of Alex Becker. And it's a 45-minute long video. And it talks about like scary close to the same concept as this. Like we even use like the same like diagram type stuff. And it's weird because I don't know where he learned it, but I just learned this through the process of studying it. How you cannot go, and he was talking about how he learned this from Sam Ovens and all that. You cannot go and accomplish the goals that you want to unless you become the person that you need to become in order to achieve those goals. And you can't possibly know what that person is unless you know what your goals are. So for those of you that are struggling right now, first ask yourself the question of, why the heck do I do everything that I do? And then go, well, that's dumb. 80% of what I do is not me. It's not actually who I am or what I want to do. So what do I want to do? And that's question number 2. And then the question number 3 is, what do I need to eliminate from my life? What are those things that are holding me back that I need to eliminate in order for me to become the person that I need to become in order to achieve my goals? And that's the third question.
And a big one on that too is like, so I went through a really similar exercise with that before, where I was trying to shift from my 6-figure self into my 7-figure self. And a lot of times it's not just things to do, but beliefs that you have to let go of, you know? So it's breaking down that, like, okay, here's where I'm at right now. Here's the things that I do daily. Here's the team, here's the marketing, here's this, here's that. And here's the beliefs that I have right now that have got me to the point where I'm at right now, but may not be beliefs that I have to keep going into that next step. So it's a really introspective process. It takes months, really, developing mindset, any kind of personal development, and figure out what you really want to do, where you want to go. And growing into that takes months, takes years. But step 1 is putting it on paper. So awesome questions for sure. It's like, what do we need to really look at, and who do we want to become?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's great. Writing everything down. And that's why with our Mind Shift playbook, we have it's a workbook, and there's videos that go with it. And you can get it where it's step by step, the questions to ask and notes to write things down, because you've got to, visualizing, I think, is so important. And I'm more of a visual person anyway, but like across the board, when you can actually visualize and see the process upon which you have to go through, it's very helpful. And I love what you said about it takes time. Like this has been my focus for like the last 5 months, learning this stuff, 5 to 6 months of just like nonstop learning about NLPs and reading mind shift books. And, I read Mindset, I read Habits of Successful People, I read Psycho-Cybernetics, like really, really studying this and applying and learning and going about this. This is not something that's just going to happen overnight. But once you get to this point, I can't explain to you guys like the actual, it's like light bulbs go off. It's like you get glasses that you can see through an entirely different lens of reality when you start to recognize these things and what you can do. Because like you said, Arnie, like that belief system, I believed that I had to do more to make more. I had to do more work, that I had to work harder. I read on average now, guys, like I never, ever used to read, ever. Like I read 1 book through high school. I now read on average of like 2 hours to 3 hours a day. And most of it's like audiobook. But I will just sit in my work time. I have dedicated time where I sit on the couch. I open up the book. I have the hardcover book and audio, and I follow along for 2 to 3 hours a day. Those type of things, that mind shift happened by going and asking myself these questions and evaluating and learning new things that I never had learned before.
Yeah.
So
that's super powerful. Also, I like that. I heard that hack before of audiobook plus physical book, because a lot of people are, auditory learners, a lot of people are visual, and people like me are super slow at reading. So it takes me like way too long. So like, I remember I did that too. I got the Expert Secrets book, right? But I got the audio book too.
Yep.
And then I sped it up to like, 2 times speed. So Russell Brunson already talks fast. And then it was like double, and I got through that whole book in like 3 hours, something like that. So I've been through it a few times.
Is a lot of people are like, oh, you can't grasp it when it's going that fast. When you have the book in front of you, you're following along. So you're hearing it and you're reading it. It's very easy to actually go through and maintain all that information because you're hearing it and reading it. Someone's reading it too. You're just following along. And so what I've done is I will listen to the audiobook first. And this is just what I do. But I'll listen to the audiobook first at 2x speed, just like while I'm cleaning the house or on a run or in the car, like whatever, just listening to it till it gets done. And then I sit down and I reread the book after I've listened to it one time with the book in front of me. And I highlight all of the main points that stuck out. It is amazing how many points you will not catch the first time you read a book that you catch the second time. You're like, whoa, that makes so much sense now, because subconsciously you're actually going out there and applying so many of these things in your life. It's so cool how that all works.
Yeah. And, I think a lot of things, a lot of times people forget how we used to learn things in grade school. How do we learn how to do math? Repetition. How do we learn, all this different stuff? Repetition. Studying our worksheets, going over the same stuff over and over and over again until we learned it. And we get a lot of people who take, online courses, books, audiobooks, whatever, and they go through it once, or they go through part of it, and then, they think they know the subject now, or they just don't feel empowered at all. It's like, cool, revisit it, watch it again. I even go through sections of my own course sometimes because I recorded it a long time ago, so I'll be like, oh yeah, what was the best way to do this? Oh yeah, okay, that's what I was doing here. And I revisited a lot of different books multiple times. Like some of my my best ones to revisit, Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion. That's like, if you want to learn how to sell anything, that's fundamental stuff. I also really like one called Do Story, how to tell your story so the world listens. I probably read that one 5 times. It's like 100 pages. So, there's a lot of different stuff where you really want to think, okay, what is my foundational things to help me do what I need to do? And for me, in those 2 topics, it was like storytelling, sales, marketing, that kind of thing. But you guys got to have this stuff for your mindset, for your personal development as well.
Yep, that's awesome. What was the name of the first book you said there before Do Story?
Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion, Robert Cialdini.
I have not read that book.
Oh, so good.
I'll have to look it up. That's awesome. Okay. So does that all make sense so far, guys? If that makes sense, like give us a make sense below, and just make sure that yes, Austin Dixon says mindset is key. We got some people on here. I love it. What's up, Nick Robbins? Okay. Can we move on to question number 4 now? Is that all right?
Let's do it.
All right. And by the way, guys, I'm going to shamelessly plug here. The Think Different Theory, my podcast, we talk about all this a lot. Like it just dropped on Monday. I've been blown away by the support from so many people. It's been awesome. We have over 1,000 downloads already. And it's just been blowing it out of the water. So I just really appreciate all you guys with all your support. But we talk about this
on iTunes. You guys, where else you at?
iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, and then also if you go to thinkdifferenttheory.com, you can stream it on there. All the episodes are updated in real time as we go about there. Plus, you can get the Mindshift playbook there for free. I do ask, if you get the Mindshift playbook, just subscribe to the podcast. That's all I ask. We're trying to get on Apple News and Noteworthy right now, and leave a review, subscribe, rate. That'd be awesome. Super appreciate it.
Yes, let's boost them up.
So the podcast is basically these 5 questions, well, and many more, and my story of life as I go through and study what it means to be successful in all areas of life, not just success in business. Because I noticed for me, even at 24 years old, I'm going to be 25 in February, I was not successful in so many areas of my life, even though I had success in business, right? Even though I made, several $100,000 and had grown millions of followers on Instagram, like all these different things, like my health was a mess. My relationship with my family was a mess. My, mindset was all, bad and messed up. And when I actually took a step back to focus on my mindset and focus on success in all areas of life, the cliche saying of like, I became happier, like I can say that. Like I'm in a very good place mentally right now and have been for several months, because I know that when bad things happen, and they have, like I've gone through stuff, like I know how to react to it and I know how to take it and process it, and without letting it like affect all areas of my life, and just like highs and lows. I share all that entire journey with there on the process. So, okay. Question number 4. Now this is a question where I call this a context question. And I think it's super important to recognize and ask ourselves, because I know for me that I didn't even recognize this and what I was doing until I started like asking myself this question. And this came from a book called Play Bigger. Have you ever read the book Play Bigger?
Nope.
Okay, Play Bigger. Fascinating book. It's about creating a category. And like becoming a category king, and talks about like really big businesses like Netflix and Google and Amazon and all this type of stuff. But it talked about how you need to market the problem. Okay, that's the goal upon which you should be doing, is marketing the problem, not the solution. You sell the solution, but you market the problem. And so when I recognized this, I had this kind of aha moment. I was walking, like there's like a shopping mall, and as I'm sitting there shopping for Christmas presents, I'm, going and, listening to books like this. And I went, and he said this, and I like immediately stopped. And then I pulled up my phone and I wrote this down, and I went back and I thought about this so intensely. Every single thing that we buy on a daily basis, all right, is the solution to a problem. So my cup, is solving the problem that I need a place to put drinks in. You know, the microphone is solving the problem that I need to be able to, you need to be able to hear my voice, and so on and so forth. Every single thing that we buy is a solution to a problem of some sort. And so we're making this shift right now because these 5 questions were how to see the world differently and then how to go out and get whatever you want in life. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs that struggle with the concept of making money. And I really want you to understand that money is simply a universal currency for you being able to trade value. Okay. So when you understand that every single thing that you buy is solving a problem, you need to start asking yourself the question of everything around me, what problem is it solving? Because your brain then is going to get into this mode of recognizing and realizing that everything that you buy is solving problems. And you're going to start seeing more problems that are not solved that you have now the ability to go solve. Now, if you already have a business, you know that you have you know that you solve a problem, and you probably have already clearly defined that. But we forget as business owners, at least I noticed this a lot in my coaching students. They would ask me, they'd be like, Josh, why would somebody pay for this from me when they could just go do it themselves? And I'm like, well, why did you go pay for that smoothie when you could just go make it at home? Right? Like, why did you go buy the piece of clothing when you could go make it yourself? Right? Like, why did you go and do all of these things? And when you recognize that all things that you buy, and anytime there's an exchange of value, like you're just purchasing the solution to a problem, now that really frees you to be able to realize that you can go and solve problems. And even though someone could do it themselves, they're choosing to buy from you because they would rather have you solve their problem for them. And so the question number 4 is, what problem does everything that I have and buy solve? And it's this context question to get your mind ready for question number 5, which is, what problems then can I go and solve so that I can go and get what I want in life? And so in the video, I explain this a little bit better because it's better visualized. But basically, when you have a clear goal, so let's say your goal is, I want to make $300,000 this year. I personally don't like money goals because money is simply a byproduct. So I like to go out and say, what would I do with that $300 or $300,000? So my goal is to be able to invest $50,000 in, my investments and stuff in real estate at the end of this year. Spend $100,000 on personal development and expanding my company. And, another $150,000, I would like to go in and, buy a new house. Okay. So now you have these 3 objective goals very, very clearly set that you need $150,000 for, $50,000 for, and $100,000 for. Now that you have this visualized, all you have to do is recognize when you solve a problem. If you want a new house, you can go and get that new house in one of 2 ways. You can go and buy it, or you could go and swap value that you're good at with the person that can build your house. Well, chances are, like, let's say you're a photographer. Chances are, if you're a photographer and you go to a home builder and you say, hey, I'd like you to build me a house, or you go to someone that's selling a house and you say, hey, I'm willing to take 150,000 pictures for you. If you would give me your house for $150,000, they're going to look at you and go, you're crazy. But their contribution is the house. Your contribution is pictures. Money, the exchange of money, is simply taking both of your values and putting it into a format that is mutually exchangeable, right? So all you have to recognize in life, in order to get anything that you want in life, you have to ask yourself, the person that has what I want, what value can I bring to them, or how much value do they need that I need to produce in order to get that? And once you understand that concept, you can recognize, hey, I can trade value in many different ways. Money is the most common form of that. But if I figure out how to solve their problem or solve a bunch of people's problems based on what I love to do on a daily basis, then I can go and have whatever I want in life. And so, sorry, I'm getting a little bit sick here. So many people look at this and go, how do I go and make money? Or how do I go and get more customers? When really the question that you need to be asking yourself is, what's the problem that you like? What solution can you bring? What problem can you bring a solution to? And when you can get really, really clear on the solution that you bring, so many people are trying to figure out what to sell. I'm like, just figure out what solution you're providing. Like, what's the problem that you're solving? and then go out and give value to that, people want their problem solved. Everybody universally across the world wants their problem solved. So if you just find the people that have problems that they want solved and that they're willing to pay for and provide value to them, they will gladly hand you money, whether it's painful or not. I don't like handing Apple $1,000. No matter how much money I have, I will never like handing Apple $1,000 for this phone. But I will gladly do it every single time because I like the newest and latest iPhone and I want my problem of feeling like I need this iPhone solved, right? And so that's the mind shift that you have to have, is rather than going out there and like asking the questions of like, how do I make more money or how do I do this? What problem can I solve in all areas of life? And if you are just starting out in business right now and your mindset is really crappy, I do not recommend going and trying to start a business with no money. Like if you have no money right now and you're like broke and you're like in your side hustle or in your job and you're trying to start a business on the side, don't go start a business when you haven't proven the concept of what you're good at yet. Go out and find things. How I started my business was driving for Uber and flipping stuff on Craigslist. I made several $1,000s, like 5 or 6 or 7 grand, flipping stuff on Craigslist and eBay and Facebook Marketplace and driving for Uber before I went out and started my business, because number one, I needed capital. And number two, that taught me how to go out and solve problems. That taught me to figure out what the market actually wanted. And take what you know now. Don't try to reinvent the wheel and go, what do I actually know how to do? If the only thing that you know how to do right now, I have a friend, and this is the only thing that he knew how to do when he first started. Okay. He knew how to buy stuff cheap and sell it high. I have never seen anybody like him be able to figure that out. And he would go and he would buy stuff on eBay for like $200 and turn around and sell it on Craigslist for 500 or vice versa. And he just did that. And he would make hundreds of dollars, actually thousands of dollars a month just doing this. If that's the only thing that you're good at, go out and do that until you understand those patterns enough to be able to apply them in other areas of the life, until you have enough capital to go out and invest in education that will train you to go out and do that. But don't start a business if you're broke, because then you're desperate. And then you're going to look for money rather than solving problems. And you're going to look for money rather than doing the next right step.
True that. Yeah, and that's really challenging too, because I really hate to see it when I see a lot of especially startup entrepreneurs completely operating out of the scarcity mentality in their everyday. Because if they take one small wrong move in their business or lose a client or whatever, like they can't pay their rent. And it's mixing the personal and the business finance way too much, where your decisions are driven by your lack instead of your abundance, of saying, okay, this is the business finance, you know, that's separate from just my income. And like, okay, if I have to take a big investment, it's from the business. It's not, you know, it's taken from my family vacation fund or, you know, right, retirement or whatever. So I really want people to kind of step into that and move towards that with looking at your business finances as a business finances. That's why a lot of people struggle with investing in things like Facebook ads or courses, right, stuff like that. They feel it's like, well, if, you know, if I buy that course or if I spend money on marketing, then I can't do X, Y, and Z, or I can't, you know, have as much money as I want in my life. Well, it's okay. How do we figure out how to get them up to that point where their personal income is taken care of, and then they can look at their business finances as a completely separate animal? I think it's a really important thing for you guys to strive for if you're not at that point yet.
Super, super important. And I actually have, like, I use 2 different banks for my personal and business accounts for that reason, so that I'm not tempted to like pull them up and mingle funds and like things like that. Cause that was a mindset that I had to get over. Like, guys, I don't think you understand how bad my mindset used to be. Like, I grew up in a very scarcity money mindset, in a very scarcity like household of money, where like it just wasn't abundance at all. And so like what you said, Arne, when you're starting this business in this scarcity mindset, you're like, I'm afraid to invest in anything because then I can't pay my bills or this or that. You should not be starting a business if you can't pay your bills. What you should be doing is you should be making money. And there's a big, huge difference between making money and starting a business. Okay. Making money is going out on Craigslist and flipping stuff like Gary Vee talks about. Making money is going to all of your neighbors and washing windows or, you know, mowing their lawn. There is absolutely no shame in that. And it blows my mind how many people like let the way that they make money define them. Like, I can't go wait tables at a restaurant. Why? Oh, because there are people that like make bank doing that. Like that's good. Like that's good work. That's good jobs. And like us entrepreneurs, we think that as embarrassing or whatever. I'm like, dude, if I had to start all over again, the very first place I would go is go and wait tables. Why? You can make bank. It's all like all that cash is pocketed. And on top of that, you learn amazing people skills, right? Like you learn how to sell, you learn how to interact with people. You start at your base. Don't try to start a business out of desperation. Please, please, please understand. And when you go into business, your selling process will become so much easier when you recognize that you're just selling people the solution to their problem. When you recognize that people actually have problems. I meet so many entrepreneurs that are like, nobody wants to buy my product. Well, then don't sell your product. You know what I mean? Like if nobody wants to buy it, don't force them to, because they're going to have buyer's remorse. They're not going to talk about it if they're not happy with it. If you think nobody wants to buy your product, it's probably because your product isn't all that great. But when you recognize that somebody has a problem and you're like, oh my gosh, I can solve that problem. Like I know how to do that. That's what you should be going and doing, because then life becomes so much simpler because you're like, dude, I can totally solve your problem. They give you money and you're super confident about going in. And so many people are like, I don't know. I don't know if I should charge that much money because I don't know if I can solve the problem. Then don't sell it. Like you should be able to solve the problem. Like no brainer. People are they think they're trying to sell this lifestyle or this dream. It's just a solution to a problem. My problem is I want a nicer car. Lamborghini offers that, right? My problem is I want a really nice vacation. Royal Caribbean offers that, right? Like these are just solutions to problems. And that mental shift of what problems can I solve? A lot of people, the average entrepreneur makes $42,000 a year. The
That's
average
crazy.
American citizen working an average job makes $49,000 a year. 49 to 51, depending upon what you look at it. So the average entrepreneur makes almost $10,000 less than the average person working a job. Okay. That should not be the case, but it is. So for all of you that are out there struggling, that are at that $40,000 level, that $30,000 level, that $10,000 level, and you're not where you want to be at, chances are it's because you need to take a step back and reevaluate how you're approaching the problem of saying, what problem am I actually solving? And you need to be asking yourself the questions of 1 and 2 and 3, which is, why the heck am I actually doing this? Why do you want to be an entrepreneur? Because it's cool? Because somebody else told you? I met so many people that like, I want to be an entrepreneur, but would be way happier having a job because they don't want to deal with the stress of it. And they don't want to deal with clients. Like, go get a sales job. I was talking with someone that you and I both know, Arne, the other day. And she was like, I've thought about this a lot. It would be so nice to just work for somebody else as a salesperson, just like as an independent salesperson, just be able to sell high ticket, close the deal, earn my commission and walk away. And I'm like, well, then why don't you do that? She's like, well, because blah, 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 people see me. I was like, but it doesn't make you happy. Like what you're doing right now is not making you happy. And if you're not, and I feel like Gary Vee here, like if you're not doing what you love to do, why the heck are you doing it? And that's what I started to apply in my life. The things that were causing me stress, even if they were profitable in my business, I just cut them out. I just stopped doing them. And I was like, nope, I'm going to focus on the things that I actually like to do. And at the beginning, my pay went, whoop. And then I got to this low, the low point. I was like, doing $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 months. And then whoop, it dropped down to like 10,000. You're like, whoa. But then you get really, really clear on what you want to do. And when you're not operating in this scarcity mindset and you're keeping business separate from personal, right? Now you have the ability to go and play around. I don't care how much money the amount of money my business makes has absolutely zero effect on my personal life. And that's how it should be when you're running a business correctly, right? Obviously not in the starting stages, but like when you're running a successful business, if you're like, dude, I had a baller month this month, I'm going to go on a vacation, then you're not thinking about things correctly, because now you're tying what you're doing in your business to what you're able to do in your personal life. And you should have discipline in your personal life to say, no, if I want to go on a vacation, I need to save for that, put the money aside for that, or I make enough in my business to where I can just go and do that whenever I want because I'm paying myself enough. But it's all a mentality game. It's all how you approach problems. And what I want to encourage you guys is why these 5 questions that I've laid out for you, excuse me, I'm super sorry about that. I should really get a Kleenex. The 5 questions that I've laid out in the Mindshift playbook that's available. If you guys want the playbook, just comment #playbook below or go to thinkdifferenttheory.com. We'll send you over the link there. These 5 core questions will help you shift your mindset. And when you watch the videos, I actually like pull up my whiteboard and draw out these diagrams so that you can actually see it and help you become this new person. But the answer to whatever you want in life can be found in asking the right questions. You want to close more deals? Ask the right questions to your prospect. You want to learn things? Ask the right questions. Learn how to ask the right questions rather than trying to figure out, like, be really smart or do more things. Figure out what questions that you need to ask in order to achieve what you want in every area of your life: business, relationships, health, personal life, business, all of it. Ask the right questions and you can have whatever you want.
That's it.
Mic
That's
drop.
the message. Love it. And you guys know where to go to get those 5 questions. ThinkDifferentTheory.com. Thanks so much for swinging by again, man. As always, we're happy to have you. If you guys are enjoying this stream, if you guys learned something, if you're inspired, if you are taking something from this stream into your next steps, let us know below, because we don't just do this stuff to entertain you guys. We do it to change your lives and help you out. So leave a comment. Tell us one thing you learned from this stream. Make sure you guys go to thinkdifferenttheory.com, grab the 5 questions, subscribe to the podcast, check out what he has for you guys. And thanks for tuning in as always. So what would be your last bit of advice for everybody when they are going about this and going through these 5 questions? What should they think about the most?
Well, the first thing I would say is, if I can, I'm going to plug the podcast and say, subscribe to the Think Different Theory. My goal in life used to be to build a huge business and be successful in business. My goal in life has drastically shifted to dedicating my life to understanding what it means to become truly successful in all areas of life and actually going and doing that. And the Think Different project, or Think Different Theory, is my journey of life, my documenting of life, of asking life's biggest questions to myself and for myself and sharing those answers with you. And my last piece of advice to you as you're going about doing this is be okay with being 100% honest with yourself and being okay with whatever that answer looks like. Because there are so many people out there that are scared of the truth. They are scared to be honest with themselves about what they want, because if they actually face the reality of that, that is really uncomfortable, because their mom, their girlfriend, their boyfriend, their boss, their whoever, society tells them that that's not okay, or tells them that that's weird, or tells them that that's whatever. So being ridiculously and honestly truthful with yourself and sitting down and saying, this is what I actually want, this is the truthful answer to the question that I just asked, and being okay with that will get you further along in life than a lot of other things will. So do that. And as always, think different, right? Like, just think differently about everything that you do know and understand, because that's what's ultimately going to get you where you want to be.
That's it. That's the one. Awesome, man. Great stuff. So thanks again for swinging by. Hope you guys all enjoyed this one. Make sure you guys are tuned in for MECTV, for Think Different podcast. There's just so much out there for you guys to chew on. So hop in, think about it. We hope to continue helping you guys out on your journeys, but you got to pay attention. You got to put the work in. So thanks, man. We will catch you all next time, and have a wonderful day, everybody.
Thanks so much, Arnie. Appreciate you, my man.
Later.